Just based on local news events in my area out here in what they call the Northwest region, the Pacific Northwest here in the United States, and the fires that we've been having in this region, which for the past couple of weeks have covered our skies and the smoke that you see here. And though in this area, last year, or not last year, but the year before, we got fires pretty bad, but you could just see a red haze, usually in the sunrises and the sunsets because the smoke. But now, man, the smoke is so thick in our area that, like I showed in the first video, the AQI, which is the air quality, in my area hit 308, and anything past pretty much 200 is considered unhealthy. And I work in construction, and everybody works outside. We work through the rain, we work through the snow, we work through the hail, we work through the everything, man. But the safety, I guess you could call it the safety coordinator, came out and he actually shut down the whole job site. So about, let's say about, this job site wasn't that big, so about maybe 50 guys, give or take, had to go home. Because the air quality was so bad in our area. And when I say, I don't have any lung problems or asthma or never have or anything like that, but when you took a deep inhale, like a breath of air, you could feel like a little tickle in the back of your throat. And we know that this smoke is nothing compared to how bad it's really going to get. And to show you just how crazy this is just, there's many fires. But these are just fires located in, the mountainous regions where there's a lot of trees or whatever, But it's affecting people living in cities hundreds of miles away, So what's going to happen to the world ultimately when this place gets melted by nuclear fire? And this smoke is causing a lot of people, to not be able to move around with their daily lives, and this is just a little bit of smoke in the air with bad air quality. Imagine when there's fires burning, house fires, whole skyscrapers falling, gas lines exploding in the city when Jacob's Trouble starts, and you can see what a standstill this air quality brought, and I just was, felt like doing this lesson because, this made national news for the amount of air quality that was so bad for all the forest fires. In all my years living here in Idaho, I have to say I've never seen it as bad as it has been. I know a lot of people say that, but it's true, man. I never remember having to worry about summers where you couldn't go to the mountains because, the smoke was so bad. Because I was actually going to go out to this river spot in the mountains that I know about, and I turned around not even halfway there because getting closer to the mountains, the smoke was unbearable. And through the spirit, you're not going to go out in those conditions. First and foremost, it's not safe to drive in because it's like driving in fog for how thick the smoke was getting. So before it even got to a bad level, I turned around, but that, is just because, I was heading out for like a day hike, this last weekend, and these fires, progressively getting worse. And these people think that this is just normal, and I'm not pushing global warming because global warming is not it's not a thing. But the fact that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is turning up the judgment on this place, and whether it's Esau Edom using his so-called direct energy weapons or whatever it is, we know that this man ultimately is, given authority to damage the earth. Look, this is the current air quality. It's 164. This is unhealthy air quality. Look at that, borderline of 200. And it was pretty bad this afternoon, but wind picked up, so it's pushing a little bit of the smoke away. So with that being said, fires currently in PNW, which is Pacific Northwest, and close, boom. So this is the fires in this region. Here, let me just see this. This is just Washington. A lot of the fires are so this will show you where the majority of the fires are taking place. And you go to this map, and I'm in the Boise area. Look, there's no fires in the immediate area, but because of the wind, you see how all these boom, 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 boom fires are major fires. And those red zones are showing you the areas that have already been burnt. This is hundreds of thousands of hectares, So as you can see, this part of the world is on fire. Yeah, there's some in Canada, but, my region and these natural disasters that's taken place, is judgment of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. And it actually made me think of these scriptures that I'm going to bring to you, because we're prophets. We report the news, we report what's going on in the world, and we're blowing the whistle because these wildfires, as so-called natural as wildfires are, like I said, in all my years living here in Idaho, I've never seen the smoke this bad. This is Zephaniah 1:14. The great day of the Lord Yahweh is near. It is near and hasteneth greatly. Even the voice of the day of the Lord, the mighty men shall cry there bitterly. And we know that judgment, Salakia, is going to come by way of the spearhead of the incursion, which is Yahweh Shai. And the amount of judgment that he's going to put on these people, man. And these heathens, these 2/3 Jakes, and you Israelites that need to get right, man. The Lord is going to put you through things to make you make all the wrongs right. Bring the balance of all the wickedness that you did and we did in our lives. Jacob's trouble is going to make it all up for how much torment this place is going to receive. I saw people walking around with COVID masks again, those N95, face masks again. Like, that's going to stop some, particles of smoke, man. Because literally you would go out anywhere. You would enter a grocery store and you could literally smell smoke. That's why, brothers, I need to get one. And I've been procrastinating from getting one. But brothers, if you could put like an air purifier that you plug in to your house and you switch out the HEPA carbon filters, that's a good thing to have just in general, because, it's one thing that these fires are all burning right now, but Esau, Edom is constantly spraying chemicals in the air, constantly polluting the air that we breathe, man. That's why you see those lines in the sky. I'm sure they're still spraying. You think this smoke is stopping them from spraying? No, they're like, hey, man, we can spray triple because the people can't even see the sky right now. So let's get it, So, hey, man, this is all judgment that is falling on Esau, Edom. His infrastructure, and all you damn Edomites that want to have your house in the hills, your secluded cabin in the woods, man, all that shit's gone. Verse 15, Zephaniah 1:15, that day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress. Trouble and distress, man, when you have to have a evacuate now order. But hey, Esau's going to give you an evacuate now order, but nukes are on the way. Nuclear missiles are on their way. So where are you going to run? You might as well you might as well put your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye. Because that's the last thing you're going to see when these nuclear missiles are flying through the sky, man. You're going to be burning in a fire, whether you run to the safe zone or not, man, when those nuclear missiles come. But you see Esau, Edom, and the amount of communities in the Washington, Oregon, and Idaho area that had to be evacuated quickly. Imagine that on a large scale. I was watching some of these videos, and man, I wish I would have put one in this video. But you see people rushing out of town, and not to mention the lines in traffic. And these are small towns, but everybody's leaving at once. Where they're gonna go, man? They're gonna stay on the road that's right next and surrounded by all the forest that's currently burning around them, you know? So again, man, there's nowhere that you can run without Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai and his divine protection, because divine protection, miracles, and the leading of the Ruach HaKodesh is the only thing that's going to be able to get you through these last days. There's not going to be a plan that you can plan of. There's not a safe zone. There's not enough food storage that you have cached away long enough that's going to get you through all the torments and judgments that are going to fall on this land. Verse 15, again, that day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. And let me tell you what, man, you know, the sun should be rising at around 6 o'clock where I'm at. You know, we should start seeing sunlight. But you're not damn near getting light until 6:30, 6:45, because the smoke is so thick. And the sun needs to get a little bit higher before it can even beam some light through the thick clouds that are covering the mountains right now in the area that I'm at. You know, like I said, we're used to wildfires, but not like this, man. You know, I can't imagine what New York and all these other states are going through, because they never see wildfires or smoke in the inner city, man. And here it is, burning, choking their ass up. You know, and a lot of people here are, you know, I went out to go get some things before the Shabbat, before the sun went down, you know, and the grocery store is damn near empty because nobody wants to go out in this smoke. So again, man, you know, this place is only increasing in the amount of torments that it's going to receive. And wildfires, natural disasters, burning. And they say a hurricane's coming up, getting ready to hit San Diego right now. One on record. So we'll see what happens with that when it lands in San Diego. You know? But continuing, verse 16, a day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers. You know, these are embattlements. You know, so not only are they going to have to deal with these natural disasters, but people are going to be losing their minds. You know, people are going to be, you know, doing whatever they want. This is going to turn into a lawless society very quickly, and people are going to take advantage of the chaos that's going on around them. Let me say that again. These people will take advantage of the chaos that is going on around them. They're not going to pull together and, you know, become and pull together and, you know, stay a safe community and come together as a community and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Nah, these people are going to be at each other's throats, you know, graping whole families in front of each other, man, cannibalizing each other, etc., man. It's going to get bad out here, you know. So the continuing, verse 17, and I will bring distress upon men. This is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai that's going to get the credit for this, not Esau, Edom. And I will bring distress upon men, that they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Lord Yahweh. They're not going to know where to go. Walking like blind men, their whole life has been a lie to them. And they don't know how to lead their family because they never thought this would happen. You know, you're going to have these men bugging out, man, because and a lot of Israelites bugging out too, because they didn't prepare themselves. They scoff the prophets. They call the cops on the prophets, whatever it is, man. I just say that we got the cops called on us at this last camp. Now we got to move spots because the area that we were preaching at was a closed business, but somebody called that business and said there's people on your property, man, just to be a demon. But that demon that called on us, man, which we have an idea who it is. But continuing, Salakia, get on a little rant there. Zephaniah 1:17, and I will bring distress upon men, that they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Lord Yahweh, and their blood shall be poured out as dust, and their flesh as the dung. You know, these people are going to be so many bodies, and people are going to be in a state of confusion. They're not even going to know why all the bodies are dropping. Verse 18, neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord in the Lord's Yahweh's wrath, but the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he shall make even a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land. Because these nuclear missiles are going to be that ultimate sweeping fire, that besom of destruction. And that's when you see the outline of these fires. Well, they're sweeping across the land and they're growing. So that besom was a besom of destruction. In Isaiah 14:23, I will also make it a possession for the bittern, and pools of water, which is like no man's land and vultures. And I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, man. And that ultimately is that rolling wall of fire, like in the scene Terminator Judgment Day with Sarah Connor, clinging on that chain link fence as she's getting turned to a skeleton, her flesh instantly melting off her body, man. Which was a vision that director received to put it in the movie, man. So what we're saying is first and foremost backed by prophecy and scripture. And secondly, wake up and smell the roses, man. You see everything that's going on. Ultimately, these nukes are gonna fly, and these little these little forest fires and wildfires, they're nothing compared to what's gonna come. And you see that in my area, they're shutting down whole job sites. There's OSHA requirements of air quality. I didn't even know that shit until today, but it makes sense. If they have so many health and safety regulations, it would make sense to not have guys out if the air quality is a certain level. But what happens when, these jobs start to, lose their what is it called? Lose their profit, because they're just sitting there because no one's working, man. Ultimately it's going to lead to a collapse. And these natural disasters that you see happening in your local areas, my local area, is just going to be the beginning of sorrows. Because, hey, man, when that nuclear missile comes, that's the worst thing that could hit this place. Next to Yahushai's chariot, laser beams, all that shit. Divine, hyper-tech, angelic laser beam weaponry, man. Nuclear missiles, ain't nothing good coming out of that. Other than the kingdom. When I say nothing good coming out of that is reference to you damn heathens that are going to be on the receiving end of that. And you 2/3 Israelites that should be damn East Edomites for how fucking bad and house nigga you turn against your own people, man. And that's why Jake, man, you 2/3, you're going to get it, man. Like Elder Apostle Tahar says, you're going to be jumping over Edomites to get to some of you 2/3. And I understand that more. When he first said it, I had to really meditate on it, but it makes sense, man. It makes sense because our people are wicked. And this is just some of the more judgments that you can see happening in real time. So with that being said, not to get, ramble too much, Lord willing that this lesson was edifying unto the elect. Till next time, I would like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim Rchachodash, and double honors to beloved elders and the apostles at Great Millstone that taught me this truth. While peace and salutations to all you hopeful elect Akim out there laboring that are pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. Till next time, Lord willing, Shalom.